Hello everyone, welcome to part 2 of our series of Airbus aircraft. In today's video we're going to be taking a look at some of the quirks of the Airbus A320's automatic pilots. Let's get started. So we've just taken off from Bradley International Airport. We're on our way up. I've fiddled and pushed all sorts of buttons, trying to be as annoying as I possibly can with all my such. And you can see that everything will work quite smoothly as far as that goes. If I didn't annoy this thing, I don't know how I couldn't have annoyed this thing. And that was my objective here. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and level our aircraft off. Just come over here real quickly. I'm just going to go ahead and pop that one real quick. If you pop that one with the middle mouse button, it's going to go ahead and set you over to our autopilot vertical speed. If you were to go ahead and right-click it, however, it'll immediately level the aircraft off, which is exactly what I wanted to do. Now, one of the biggest problems you're going to have with this aircraft when you're first adapting to it, other than kind of how fancy the automatic controls are with it, is going to be the fact that this aircraft, as clever and very, very well designed as it is meant to be flown in a specific way. When you start experimenting with some of the different components and start kind of playing with things in a non-standard, you can actually come up with situations where things essentially contradict each other. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. Of course, our speed limit is overrun. That's actually one of the common problems. I was going to demonstrate that. So if I come over my flight plan here, I can see here that I have a limit of 10,000 feet here, which is a pretty good limit here. We're supposed to get to that basically by Hartford. And then from that point forward, we can get a little bit higher, obviously. So let's go ahead and intentionally assign an altitude. Let's say my altitude limit's going to be 4,000 feet. I'm going to put that right at Hartford. So basically what I'm doing is creating an altitude constraint. I'm trying to tell this aircraft we're not supposed to go past that point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to order this aircraft to go downwards fairly aggressively here. The engines are basically down there. And the interesting thing with this aircraft is when the engine noise gets loud, everything else gets quieter. I don't know. It's just kind of the way they do it. So we're going to go ahead and do a little gentle descent here. And like I said, I'm just trying to get a little bit lower here for the purposes of our demonstration. Let's go even lower. While we're doing that, of course, one of the things I'll do is I'll go ahead and establish another altitude constraint here. Let's see here. We've overridden that one already. We'll do 4,000 feet here as well. And then we'll go ahead and do 4,000 feet as well over here. Again, we're going to try to keep the intentionally low limits here. And the purpose of this, of course, is to basically create that nasty constraint that's going to cause us some problems here. There we go. Our aircraft is descending pretty quickly here. I'm going to go ahead and level off again. And you can see without too much difficulty that this aircraft quickly overspeeds itself in a descent because it has high rates of speed. So that is problem number one with this aircraft. Anytime you're using vertical speed, so now you're doing anything in a dive, you have to be extremely mindful of the airspeed you travel at. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come over here. I'm going to go ahead and right-click. And what's going to happen is I'm going to go ahead and tell the computer to do a standard climb. When you're in standard climb mode, you're going to have a couple different things. First of all, you're going to notice level is on. The other thing you're going to notice is your computer is going to say that it is in climb mode. Climb mode, one of the things you'll notice now is I've got this magenta alt, which is warning me that my current altitude is being constrained. You see how the aircraft immediately hit that constraint and it's starting to actually level us off already? Until that constraint gets passed, our aircraft is going to be trapped at that altitude. Now, let's say I'm like, I don't have the time for this. And I went over here and I did an open climb. Now, what you'll notice here is I have middle mouse buttoned on this, and you'll see that it says open climb. The other thing you're going to observe is the fact that this aircraft is now rapidly ignoring the altitude constraint I just established. That is one of those little Airbus quirks that you have to kind of be careful of. When it comes down here, you'll notice it basically deleted all of my little pieces here, and it is no longer holding those constraints at all. Now, when you realize this and go, oh, shoot, I'm not supposed to be in an open climb. What I should have done is I should have been in a regular climb. You run over here, and you go ahead and give that sucker a quick little right click and switches back to climb. It's too late because the constraint has already been bypassed. Therefore, the aircraft isn't going to start descending back to that particular position. And you can start to see some of the challenges you're going to have. Remember, that little dot there is basically to remind you that when you're going to be doing anything, you have to be mindful the computer's in control of it. And whatever the computer currently is highlighted in white right now, it's going to be doing. The moment you go ahead and pull that out, even though you're theoretically climbing to your cruise altitude smoothly like we wanted it to, it is in that mode. Another thing that's really important whenever you're playing with any altitude change modes is to notice that this speed constraint is still defined by this system, regardless of being in an open climb. That means if you were to come over here and right-click on here and actually manually dial in your own speed, you would actually be doing a flight level change at whatever speed that you dialed in there, regardless of what climb mode you have. That means if you did something goofy, like came in here to, let's say I want a 300-knot climb, there is nothing on board stopping this aircraft from attempting to do a 300-knot climb, even though I'm under 10,000 feet. That is one of those nice little quirks. Now you're going to sit here and get all panicky and go, oh, wait a minute, I'll just come over here and use my middle mouse button on this guy. I'm sorry, right mouse click on this one to basically switch back to climb mode. Nice. But what you'll have observed is our thrust setting is still independent of our altitude setting. This is one of those things that makes this aircraft awesome and tricky at the same time, is that because everything is independent and connected, when you start pulling individual pieces out, literally by pulling the knobs, you're actually causing those problems to start to happen. Now, this gets a little interesting too. Let's say we wanted to manually fly a VOR real quickly here. Let's see here. I think we're going down to a Chester VOR, Calverton VOR, I think is the one I'm thinking of. That's 114.55. So let's go down here. Again, it's yelling at me. It's saying I'm not using the correct speed. That's okay. I'll go ahead and re-enable it here. Right click. Yep. All right. So let's go to our nav radio real quick. I'm going to say that I want to do CCC. CCC, click. Come over here, press CCC. By the way, if you want to clear this out, you just hit clear and then you click next to it and it'll reset it. Of course, in this ironic case, it's basically going to run out and grab the wrong one. All right, so we'll do it the old-fashioned way, 114.55, just like that. We're going to come in here, dial in that. Hey, there we go. There's triple C. Nice. So if I were to come over here now and pop this thing into VOR mode, what you're going to observe is that we're going to be more or less on course to a triple C here. I'm just looking down here to try to get a general idea for it. It's probably going to be a little bit more, we've got to kind of establish where we're going. But one of the things you're probably observing is the computer right now is still in control of our heading. Let's say we want to fly the VOR towards this particular destination here. If I were to come over here and pop it in VOR mode, I can see that the heading here, this is going to be, let's see, that's a Yoder. That's about a 226. So if I were to actually come in here to 226 as my course, just like that, give it a second to kind of line up. If I were to go back to my VOR page, you'll notice I'm more or less on course here. Of course, this is the wrong course. Why did it reset? Oh, I pushed the wrong one. My apologies. I meant to do 226 there. Hey, fixed it. You'll notice we're more or less on course. Now your brain goes, how come we're not following this? How do I fix this? So once again, you reach over here and you go ahead and right click on this, nothing happens. You hit middle mouse button on this and you'll observe the fact that it opens up heading hold mode. Now you'll notice underneath heading hold mode, this button that says localizer. If I press localizer, you'll notice it does nothing for me. It basically continues to hold the heading. Now if I were to sit here and crank this over to the right, and I'll basically try to intercept it. Let's do 270 should be plenty here. What you're expecting here is any point for this aircraft to grab onto this, just like you're expecting to get an aircraft like it. We can actually switch this to managed climb real quickly here. Boop. Helps if you right-click the right button here. Of course, it's not going to highlight because of the fact that we're off course now, but that's okay. Go ahead and speed up time a little bit here. 1, 2, 3. There we go. You can see all my needles flipping around now. 1, 2, 3. What you'll observe here is we did successfully capture that VOR, and we're actually flying that VOR right now. It's basically thinking it is a localizer that we're flying, even though it is going to be this one that we're actually grabbed onto at this time. Now, the computer at this point is very, very, very confuzzled. You can see the fact that our little light went out here because it has trapped the appropriate mode here. Now, this is where you're in trouble again. We're on localizer hold. If you actually look over here, we're not on GPS or FMS or any of those modes. We're actually trapped onto this VOR right now. So if you were to come over here and press the lock button, you'll see it switches back to heading mode. To actually get back to our navigation mode, I have to actually come over here and give that the right click. Now you'll notice when I gave it the right click, it switches back to heading mode. And the reason it switches to heading mode is we're no longer on course. If we wanted to actually correct our course here, we'd have to pull this knob out, switch it to a place that's going to get us back on course, and then push the knob back in. And you can see here, because we're now intersecting our green line of safety, we're actually back in business. We're back on the navigational hold. But remember how we were pushing all those buttons? Look what happened here. We're still in open climb, which means we were disregarding all of those constraints. So if I come over here and right click, you'll notice because I've got nav now, I can switch back to climb mode, which now means I have the ability to go ahead. I can actually do standard here. Go, boop. I'll give that a quick little burp, just like that. Nice. Because I'm in that mode now, we're back in a managed situation. Our speed is under control, our navigation is under control, and our altitude is under control. Hopefully you're starting to see why that gets tricky. Now it gets worse. Now I've intentionally set up an awful landing here to demonstrate one of the last details. And this is really, really, really important. When you're coming in for landing with this aircraft, remember we have automatic thrust on. So let's say I'm coming in and I reach down here and I go ahead and pull the throttle back. One of the things you will notice is automatic thrust has shut itself off, which now means if I need to go around, again, I've got to allow myself a lot of speed. Let's say that I want, oh God, this landing doesn't look good. If I slam the throttle forward, what you're going to notice is the automatic pilot is going to attempt to go ahead and maximize, put yourself up at 15 degrees, and it's going to climb like a cannon. Now, when it does this climb like a cannon, and now you're observing, and again, I was very quick to get my flaps up here, you'll notice that the automatic thrust re-engaged and that the aircraft did everything on board for you. Now, something you have to be very mindful of is when you come down here to take a peek at what it's trying to do, is it's actually attempting to fly the automatic land, basically the go-around procedure, the missed approach, basically, I should say, basically on what we're doing here. Now, one of the things you'll probably have also noticed is the fact that it kicked on man toga mode, and now that it's switched to open climb. Did you notice it switched to open climb? That means that during this climb, whatever you have set in here is what your aircraft is going to attempt to climb to. So if you did not set your missed approach altitude correctly, that's going to mean that it's going to go rip up to whatever you had in that window there, regardless of the actual missed approach procedure. So as you can see, there's quite a few little fun things that you need to know about the automatic pilot on this, little things that kind of trap people that you have to kind of play with. The biggest thing is you've got to think about what you're doing before you start pushing buttons. When everything is completely automatic, everything is smooth, you don't need to stress about things, all the buttons are in the right spot, you have very, very little to worry about with the autopilot on this one. But it's when you start limiting certain options is when the trouble starts. Enjoy.